Well, welcome to another episode of My Life in Football, and really lucky to say joining us today, coach it down at Merthyr Town, nearly called it Merthyr Tidville, but a slip of the tongue. Of course, Craig Reedy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Very good.
And Craig, we'll start off as we always do with these shows. I mean, we'll start off with a couple of minutes about how this season, and then go back to the beginning. But I mean, was it in the end? Was it a little bit one step too far, disappointing, or what was the feeling?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. It was very flat at the end. It was a very up and down season, to be fair. But yeah, we dropped a few points leading up in the weeks leading up to it, and we knew it was going to be a tough ask, and it was out of our hands coming into the last game of the season. So we needed Hayes to get a result against Bracknell, which was a tough ask. I mean, there was a lot riding on it for them, but yeah, it nearly happened. It came close with them getting a penalty in the last dying stages of the game. And there was a moment where we were thinking this could happen here. But ultimately, yeah, some of the points we dropped were disappointing, and it wasn't to be.
I mean, I must be. I was sitting in the O2 and I saw the scores come through, and somebody had put through that Hayes were winning, and I'm thinking, oh, this is unbelievable. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You sort
well,
of,
it was like the last day of the season. I mean, the weather was awful. It wasn't the last day of the season. Weather it was freezing.
no,
But we were winning. We had a great start, and then we get to half time and it's 0-0. Then you think, well, there's a chance because both sides need to get a result here, so someone's going to go for it. And then we were Bracknell with 2-0 up, so it was like that's done, no problem. And one of the players came over and said, "What's the score in the Bracknell game?" I think we were like 5-1 up at the time. I said, "I like 2-0 up, so it's done. There's no hope there now, really." Right, okay. And then next thing, someone on the bench said it's 2-1, and then it's 2-all, and start to get a little bit excited, thinking, they've got a bit of momentum behind them here now, and what have you. And then within 30 seconds, it was, no, it's 3-2 to Bracknell. So our game's finished, theirs is still going on. So we've gone to do a lap for the fans and applauded the fans and said thank you for their support throughout the season. And as we get round to the corner flag, someone says, I think it was one of the analysts, say, Hayes have got a penalty, and there's a couple of minutes still to go. So obviously Hayes scored a penalty. Our fans start chanting and screaming and letting us know that it's 3-all. And then we didn't know what to do because we didn't want to go into the change rooms in case Hayes scored and then you want to celebrate with the fans. But at the same time, you're thinking it's dying stages. So there was that moment where we stood on the pitch, just waiting for a couple of seconds to see the final whistle go. And then, yeah, it was a bit flat then, a little bit of disappointment. But yeah, it was kind of what we expected. Going into the last game, but yeah, it was still a disappointment.
no, absolutely, absolutely. So I suppose let's go back then to sort of not necessarily day one, but sort of day one of football career. How did you get involved in? And I've said it all the way through this series, sort of like the crazy game that is football. How did you sort of first get involved in that?
I mean, oh God, I've had football at my feet as long as I could remember. All the photos of me as a toddler, barely walking. My dad played football at Welsh League level um, and local level. And I used to go and watch him play, and just loved it. I've been on that touchline and seen him play, and just wanted to play football whenever I could. And I think I first went. I think he took me to a team when I was about 7. At the time, it's a bit different now. I know they go from like 3 years old now with
Yeah.
teams. It was about 7 at the time. There wasn't lots of teams around. Um, yeah, and absolutely loved it. I mean, it was a bit different then to how it is now. No, it wasn't coach education and all these things at the time. So I remember going up and it was like 20 of us, we'd line up and the coach would roll the ball, you'd run on, take your shot, miss the goals, you go and get the ball back, and then you go back to the queue and wait for the 19 other boys to go and have their shot. And then you'd have 3 touches and then you'd do the same with a header. And then you'd have a game and off you go. And yeah, it wasn't brilliant back then looking back, but I think then my dad decided that that wasn't quite right. You should all have a ball, and so he got involved in the coaching himself then. And I mean, he used to speak to parents and say, "Look, can they bring their own ball with them?" Because the club couldn't afford to buy footballs for everyone at the time. So we take our own footballs with us to use it, and we didn't have the pop-up goals and mini goals at the time. So we'd be boot bags. I remember the boot bags.
Yeah,
We used to have, and we boot bags will be put down for goals and sometimes for dribbling as well. We didn't have cones, so we dribbling out of the boot bags and things like that. And yeah, we developed from there, and we ended up having a very good junior team at Pendarren Boys Club. Very successful as kids there. But yeah, just always loved it. Absolutely loved playing football.
Can you remember sort of like, when sort of you say dad now sort of involved in it? I mean, getting towards that sort of very first game you ever played. I mean, as a young lad, the excitement must have been incredible.
Yeah, I do actually remember it. So I would have been about 7, possibly 8, but I think I was 7. I can remember the pitch we played. We played down in Treharris, where I'm now living, funny enough, ironically enough. We played down there, and I was playing with the older boys, so I was under 10s. But I think I was 7. And I think I only got on the field for about 5 or 6 minutes at the end. It was a bit of a nice gesture from him to let me get on and have a game. They'd been there training, but I was very young and I was tiny. I was absolutely tiny, skinny little kid. And they put me up front and I scored. And it was the best goal that anybody's ever seen in my eyes. Obviously, it was a tap in from about half a yard out, but to me, that was World Cup final. I can remember one of the boys who I'm mates with now picking me up to celebrate, and I think we won like 8-1 or something. But everybody was so happy for me that I'd scored, being the little young skinny kid on the pitch that day. Yeah, the excitement was just, like I say, it was, to me, that was my World Cup final. That was massive for me.
So I mean, going from there, I mean, did you sort of stay with it, start playing for the school side and stuff like that as well?
Yes, the club side we had, Pendarren Boys Club. I think there was only one player maybe who wasn't in the school that we were in the primary school. So we were all friends off the pitch and just worked out that way. But we had a very good school team then, obviously. And my dad coached us at club level, and he was all, in fairness, everybody now wants to pass the ball and play Pep Guardiola style of passing and play it from the back. But even back then, that's the way we used to play. He used to have us play in. I mean, I got copies of games here actually on VHS. That's how long ago it is, but copies of those.
I've got them as well.
Copies of those finals, games and finals where we have passed the ball. We didn't just lump the ball forward, and I mean we were under 10s playing on small, big pitches. Not like now with mini football. We were on the full size pitches, but we did pass the ball out, and we had a very good team. We were very successful. Our school team then, obviously, was all those players. So we won the Merthyr Schools Cup and did well in the schools game because it was the same players. But yeah, I mean, Pendarren, we used to play on a school's pitch, not school I went to, on a comprehensive school's pitch. And we used to, I remember changing in a church hall and walking like a quarter of a mile down the road to the pitch to use the school pitch to play on because they didn't have their own pitch. And then eventually they secured a lease for a bit of wasteland, which was right next to our school. I can remember standing, looking out that window, and we'd been told that we were going to have a pitch there, and we were going to have a stand there, and that was a big thing, but you can have a stand. And I mean, to me, a stand was 70,000 seater stadium. So I would standing, looking out the window at school, trying to picture myself playing on. It was wasteland, it was stones and rocks everywhere. And imagine playing there in this big stadium. That's in my mind, that's what it was going to be. And just the excitement of that, and I used to visualize that. And then eventually they did move there. They got their own pitch. Now they've got a lovely ground there now. They have got a stand. It's not 70,000 there. There's probably 200 seats in there, not 70,000. But yeah, the club developed massively. My dad was a big part of that. So, like I said, we didn't have cones, we didn't have footballs. He changed that, and he even think little things like, seems funny now looking back, but water bottles. The teams didn't have their own water bottle. You take your own drink and that. And there was an offer on in the petrol station just by the ground for Lucozade, and if you bought 3 bottles of Lucozade Sport, you get a free water bottle with it.
I remember that.
Yeah. Right. So he would then collect the money of everyone, or parents would go and buy the Lucozade, and we'd have a water bottle. So then we keep the water bottles. But then, I mean, back then we didn't have the water bottle carriers and things. So we went to the local club and asked them for the glass carriers that they used to use. and that was how we had our water bottles as a team. And I can remember other teams being in awe of that, like, oh God, they got their own water bottles. Like these other kids thinking that we must have been a brilliant team because we had water bottles, and that was like a luxury thing because you used to take your own. Yeah, so we've come a long way since then, in fairness.
Is that the pitch that's just down from the church where Anthony's funeral was at?
That's it. Yeah, yeah. So it's that ground. Yeah. So that was wasteland. The club took over that, and I mean, it's a 3G pitch there now with floodlights and a nice stand, and they've done really well there, and they're developing all the time. But yeah, that became our home as kids. And I stayed there till I was about 17. Left, returned again for a little spell there. But yeah, I still go there to watch games now, and I still have the odd game for the over 40s on that pitch now. All these years later.
So I mean, with it though, I mean, what was the first game? Was there a game that you went? Well, let's just reword that. You know, with yourself, if you got your own sort of like team you support yourself, and is it, you know, quite close to you, or what is
Yeah.
your?
So this was the thing with me. So I used to go and watch my dad play whatever he was playing. I'd go watch. So obviously he was my first footballing hero because that's what you do, and wherever you go with that's what I wanted to do. Play, for his team and all that. And then I remember him playing local league football, but they would kick off at 2 o'clock. So we'd play there, and then he'd finish a game, quick shower, and we'd go straight to Merthyr to catch the second half of the Merthyr game if they were home. And that's what we do. And then that was another level again because, I mean, they were in the conference at the time, they were getting good crowds. And that ground was a massive thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is real football now. So my first team was probably Merthyr. It wasn't, you mentioned and all that. It was Merthyr, and my first footballing heroes then would have been the Merthyr players. So yeah, I followed Manchester United, but Merthyr was always my team. I remember having my first football shirts would have been Merthyr shirts, not Manchester United. So yeah, Merthyr is really my team.
So right, the reason I asked that for was the question would be was either if you went in by yourself or went in with your dad. What was that feeling like when you first walked into that ground, you know, for the first time? I mean, was it sort of goosebumps if you know, if it's Merthyr or if it was Manchester United later on? I mean, what was it? What was the actual feeling like for you when you walk in there?
Yeah, it was massive going to Merthyr. I used to get so excited to go there to watch games there. I can recall lots of, I couldn't tell you teams or who they played, but I can remember Tuesday night games and excitement going to watch a Tuesday night game because of the atmosphere then on a Tuesday night when it was dark and the floodlights were on. And I can remember things like, remember it snowing one game. And I mean, any snow now and the game's off. There's no health and safety dictates. You can't play with any snow now. But I remember the excitement when the orange football came out. I'd never seen an orange football. I'd seen on a telly on Match of the Day. But the orange football came out and I was like, oh my God, that was so exciting to see an orange football and the crowd singing and chanting. And I can remember one of the games I do remember was Bamber Bridge. I remember Bamber Bridge being there. I think that might have been conference days, and they brought a good following with them as well. And they were the fences up at the time, segregate the fans. And I remember going with my friends round right as far as we could go up against the fence to see what was going on. And Merthyr scoring and getting squashed up against the fence where everybody's celebrating and they all run. And yeah, just absolutely loved that. The excitement to go and watch Merthyr was. I met a lot of people up there that I'm still in touch with, still friends with now. I wouldn't have known other than going up there and yeah, they were great. And they even things like the old shop, which obviously not there now because they've restructured the ground and developed it. But going in there and having pasty and chips, that was exciting. I mean, the amount of salt and vinegar I went on in chips was ridiculous. It's probably like mine's probably still crying now, but just absolutely loved little things like that. There was a club shop there where they sold programs and different programs, and as a kid, you just loved football. That was huge. Just absolutely loved going there.
Mm. So you're playing for the boys team. I mean, where did it sort of evolve from there?
So I was there till I was 17. And here in Wales now, we're not allowed to have dual registrations, but back then you could. So I was playing for, I played for that club up till I was 17. I think I went in the first team there when I was 16, which was massive for me. Played a few games there then. And then at 17, we had schoolboy trials for the under-18s Welsh schoolboys. And I went down there, and as we were walking off the pitch, I think I was playing central midfield at the time, and they'd asked me could I play on the wing, on the left wing for trial game, so I can use my left foot, but I'm not great. And the selector saying, listen, we haven't got any left wingers, so you might be able to get in there anyway. So I went on to the left wing, and right at the end, I don't think I had a great game or anything. And then right at the end, the ball's come out, I've broken down my chest. And as I've gone to touch it out my feet, it's kind of bobbled up a little bit. And I've almost caught it on the volley. Now, it wasn't great with my left foot. I caught the perler, and it's crashed against the crossbar and gone out, and an ooh moment and all that. And the trial ended. I don't think I'd done a lot other than that, to be perfectly honest. But we walked off, and a guy came on to me and said, he's one of the selectors, and he's also with Newport County, with their youth, and would I be interested in having a chat and going there? So gave him the phone number. No mobiles back then. That's how old I am again. And he ran the house that night to ask if I could go down to training the following day. My dad took me down to training, trained with Newport County, and absolutely loved it. I mean, Pendarren was a great club, and I was loving it there. But this was a level up, level above. I mean, we were in the South Wales Cup, and they were in the FA Youth Cup. So I was like, I have to go there. They asked me to sign. I signed. I went there, and I stayed in Newport County because I believe they were in the under-18s league at the time. It was the South West Counties League they were in, so there was a lot of travelling. I mean, I had to be down in Newport for like 6:30 some Saturday mornings. Off we'd go for 11 o'clock kick-off, so it meant my dad would work all week. We'd have to get up really early on a Saturday morning to take me down to Newport so I could jump on a bus.
How far is that away, Craig? Newport from
here is probably about 40 minutes.
Right.
So we'd have to be there, fairly early to then jump on our bus to go to get to Cheltenham or wherever we were going at that time for 11 o'clock kickoff. I remember just being shattered even before the game started, just being so tired, not used to getting up at that time, teenager, meant to be up before 12 o'clock, I don't think you. So that was tough. But then towards the end of that season, they rang and said, listen, you're not going to be kept on when you go, which I knew anyway. And so I didn't know where I was going from there. And then a scout in Merthyr, he was a scout for Luton, so we played Luton. I played Luton a few times in trial matches, called Cyril Beach, who's a friend of the family as well by this stage. He decided I needed to go to Merthyr Youth, which I wasn't that keen on, to be perfectly honest. I wanted to go back to Pendarren. But, right, okay, we're going to have a look. And at that time, I was also playing then for a Welsh League team called Hoovers. I was playing in the second team there while I was down at Newport. If I wasn't in Newport for whatever reason in the squad, I'd go and play on a Saturday for Hoovers and play senior football and get that experience of playing against men and being bullied and kicked and all that side of it. And I decided to give it a little go in Merthyr. I went up there. It was right at the end of the season, so there was only 7 games left maybe. But absolutely loved it up there. Got to the end of that season, and we did think that was the end of it because I was under 18s. And they changed the rules here in Wales. They changed the league from under 18s to under 19s, which meant I had another year. I was eligible to play one more season at Merthyr Youth. And then everything changed then. I had a really good year that year playing for Merthyr Youth. I think I got into the league team. We used to go and play. Les, who's now our chairman, was one of the selectors in the league team, and I got selected to go and play in that league. And then, I ended up signing first team forms for Merthyr then. That's when Anthony came over the house one morning to get me out of bed to sign first team forms there. So we're all chased from there on, really.
And what was that like meeting him for the first time?
I knew Anthony anyway because we'd moved opposite Anthony when I was 12, I think, I believe. We'd moved house and gone there and kind of knew Anthony from Merthyr. So my dad would have known him through seeing him down the games and what have you. So Anthony used to see me kicking the ball around in the street. No doubt I hit his car 5-6 times a week with the ball down in the street when I was kicking the ball around. But Anthony would always ask how football was going, so I by that stage I knew Anthony really well anyway by the time I'd signed. But yeah, he'd always. It was a strange because Anthony was never in the Welsh football system. He was always with Merthyr and English, but I always knew where I was playing and how I was doing type of thing. He'd ask how I was going, but he knew the results from the previous week anyway. But yeah, I'd known Anthony. By the time he came to sign me, I'd known him a long time by then.
So we was talking about Anthony and that, but I mean, so where did it go from there then? So he's come round and made you sign forms.
Yeah, so I think that year, the first team manager decided that he was going to take a couple of youth players in to train each training session with us. So we'd have a week training with Merthyr on a Tuesday and a Thursday. It was a way of him looking at the youth players and the way for the youth players kind of integrate themselves in with those first team boys. And it was myself and one of the other youth lads gone in for the first session. Did really well. I think it was a Saturday morning actually. The game was off and training on Saturday morning. Again, my dad was coaching with Les, our now chairman at Merthyr. They were coaching our youth team. And I'd gone in and trained on the Saturday. And the manager had spoke to my dad after, not knowing that it was my dad, and said, well, I really like him. I'd like him to continue training with us. We still have 2 players come training, but I'd like him to train with us anyway. So I was training with the first team a bit. And I'd also go away on a match day with him, which was a real experience, travelling away with the first team as a youth player on the bus. So I'd have to do all the teas and coffees for the players. If they wanted a tea or coffee, and just be the butt of everyone's jokes and just get absolutely hammered on the bus with the first team, which is the way, you know, which was a good experience. But I actually loved it. I remember going away to grounds then. I remember going to Burton Albion, and obviously Nigel Clough was manager at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I remember meeting Brian Clough there, which was unbelievable. But Anthony was there at the time. He was there at the time, and he'd look after us on the bus then. So I remember being at one ground, and we were on the way to the game. He came around to us, but we weren't staying in the club, whichever team it was. They were going to bring food from a fish shop onto the bus for us to travel home with, and come around to ask what me and the other youth lad wanted for food. And I was like, "Oh, are we allowed to have food? Is that, you know, because we're not first?" He was like, "Of course you're allowed to have food, yeah." What was he like? I'm not going to leave you go starving all day. He just looked after us on that bus and made sure we were all right. And he'd still wind us up as much as any of the players. In fairness, it wasn't a free pass from Anthony, but yeah, that was an experience. So I was around that squad and things anyway. And then, like I said, I think it was like a Christmas time, I don't know, Boxing Day or New Year's Day game that we had, and some of the older lads, you know, the senior pros would have a mysterious illness on the day of that game during the holiday period when they out celebrating a lot, and we were down a few players. So Anthony came across to sign me. I don't even know if we made the bench that day, but we travelled away. I think it was Cleveland, possibly we went to on the Christmas time. But yeah, I never made a first team appearance in that spell. But I was always in and around that squad, and stayed there for that year. And then at the end of that year, we left. So a Welsh Premier side, Welsh Premier League team came in for us, and there was 5 of us from Merthyr went. Mm-hmm. So there was 3 senior players. So it was Colin Griffiths, Gareth Abraham, and Colin Loss. So 3 boys who'd been ex-pros and had signed for Merthyr and 2 years of Merthyr. And they were going to Reddy in mid-Wales. And they wanted to take myself and another youth lad, Neil Williams. So we travelled up to Reddy and we have a look, and he was like hour and a half, 2 hours away for a home game, home training session. But the 3 senior pros were getting contracts and were getting big money to go. There was a lot of money they were getting at the time. And me and Neil were going up there, going to have a look at us, and we trained and we played a few games in pre-season, and it went really well. And then I can remember them calling us in. couple of weeks before the season started, and I was going on holiday that night, and I wasn't even playing this friendly. But they said, look, come and play, and then the chairman's going to have a chat with you after, depending on how it goes, about the next steps. So we played a terrible team in a pre-season friendly, won like 11-2 or something. I scored 2. It was great. And then we had word that the chairman wanted to call me and Neil in to negotiate a deal with us. So we spoke to 3 ex-pros, 3 senior players, and they said, like, whatever you do not accept the first offer. Like, whatever they come at you with the first offer, there'll be a bit more room for a bit more money. So whatever they say, they're gonna. It wasn't a huge club. It was, it's a club in mid Wales that done really well and probably punched above his weight for a long time. So like, with 19, this is back in 2000 maybe. They'd probably offer you like 40, 50 quid. Don't accept that. You'll get a little bit more. Great. So we didn't have to drive all the time. There wasn't lots of petrol expenses. So that was great for us. I mean, I've never been paid. I've been paying subs, £2 subs a week in previous years. So this was, 40, 50 quid. But whatever you do not accept the first offer. So yeah, no problem. He called us in together. So we've gone in and we're on a chat with him, right? How much do you think we'll get? Well, if we can get like 50, 60 quid, and remember, don't accept the first offer. No, we won't accept it. We sound. We get in and the chairman says, look, really impressed, and come up from Merthyr with a good pedigree because you come from Merthyr, and we're really interested. We'd like to sign you. So look, we're thinking we'll give you £70 each again. And we both like, yeah, that's fine, that's great, that's done. Yeah, no problem. We're delighted, and couldn't wait to go up to there in case he changed his mind. Left the office, went outside, and the 3 boys were standing outside, the 3 we travelled with, and they're like, how much do we get? £70. We got 70 quid. And I was, brilliant. What was the first offer? Like, yeah, that was the first offer. That was 70 pounds. I'm like, oh, you idiot! You probably would have had £100. You would have had. Like, oh, it's just so much excitement that, oh my god, they're actually going to pay us to play football. So, like two kids were at the end of the years. We just took the 70 quid, and off we went.
So how did it go?
It didn't go great, to be honest. It was a very disjointed club at the time. So we started the season. It was tough, and I wasn't ready for it at the time. I was 19. I was small. I was skinny. I was playing centre midfield against some really tough, strong ex-pros and all sorts. I mean, it was a great experience, but I wasn't ready for that. I remember going to Real Bangor, Real Neville Southall played against us. And I can remember running through. I've been played through. I've run onto the ball going through, and I remember just kind of lifting my head to have a look as I'm going through one-on-one with the keeper. And Neville Southall was bearing down on me, and he just seemed like the biggest goalkeeper I've ever seen in my life. And I just absolutely panicked. I don't know where my shot went. Don't know if they found the ball. I got no idea. Just thinking, if he hits me, he's going to kill me. And I just wasn't ready for it. And then we played against Clayton Blackmore. He dropped down to that level at the time, and said I was Man United supporter and gone. So playing against him, and then there was another player there who played for Manchester United. I believe he scored at the new camp against Barcelona for Manchester United, called Simon Davis. Not Simon Davis played for Tottenham and Peterborough. Another Simon Davis, and he just gave me a run around like I'd never had before. Couldn't get near the guy. He was too fit, too strong, too fast, technically too good, and it was really tough. And then our manager got sacked in November time, and a new manager came in, and without seeing me play or anything, had decided that he was going to bring in certain players. I wasn't his cup of tea, and it became really tough. So, I mean, he was a very old school manager, and we'd be in training, and he'd ignore me in the corridor. He'd just be in passing in the corridor, and he'd put his head down and look away. And it wasn't happening. So my minutes dropped and dropped and dropped, and then I had a decision to make where I went from there. I had a couple of offers to go and play elsewhere and pick up some money and things, and I had a chat with my dad, and he was manager at the time of a team just outside the Welsh League. He was manager of Brecon Corries, and I ended up going there because I just felt like wherever I went, I was still young, and I just needed to play football, not pick up money and sit on a bench, and I'm not developing then as a footballer. And we had a chat, and he said, look, you need to do whatever you think is right for you. But I thought I just need to play football and get back to enjoying it because it was tough there. So I went, and I'd gone from being paid £70 a week to paying £2.50 subs again. But absolutely loved it. Loved it at Bretton College. It was a great club and some good players there as well. Paul Kedel was a youngster coming through, went on to play for Merthyr, captain Merthyr a couple of hundred times, I believe. It was a really good experience there. Toughened me up a lot playing that level of football. And great experience and great nights out in Brecon and some good moments on that pitch with a couple of promotions eventually. And it was a really enjoyable time that.
So what was it like then, going out onto a pitch and seeing that Neville Southall was actually playing in goal against you?
Honestly, it was. I remember all the talk before the game was about Neville Southall. Just all the talk. Never mind tactics we were playing. It was just Neville Southall was playing. And I mean, he was the best keeper in the world for me at one point. And obviously being Welsh, it was amazing to be on the pitch with him. But it was also, like I said, it was terrifying as well when he came running out. But I do remember him just like, I mean, he was. The ball would be done one, it'd be in the centre circle, in fact, and he'd still be leaning on a post at the other end. And he was just a man on it. He was incredible. I just remember thinking, we're not scoring against him today. We weren't a very good team. We were struggling in that time, but I remember thinking, I can't see us scoring against him. What's the chances of scoring against Neville Southall? And then going into the bar after and seeing him in there, and it shocked me because, with social media, you know what these characters and these people are like more now. But I don't know, because he played for Everton all those years and I played for Wales all that time, and was a big hero. Just thought he was going to, I don't know, just thought he was going to be so glamorous and we're having Neville Southall as the furthest person away from that you can ever imagine in life. I mean, he was there with like an old beige coat on, just didn't drink, I don't think he drinks, so was there with a can of Coke or whatever he had in his hand, bottle of water, and just kept himself to himself. It was, you'd expect everybody to be, all his teammates to be flocking around him and still want to hear the stories. And I don't go in to speak to him. I remember shaking hands with him on the pitch after. But I didn't go to speak to him because I was a little bit intimidated, and also I'm looking again. I don't think he wants people to talk to him. I think he's happy with his own company type thing. But yeah, that's something I do look back on quite fondly, that I managed to play against him in a competitive game. That was a big experience for me at the time.
So where did your career move on from then, from Brecon then?
Well, I stayed at Brecon for a few years, and then I ended up signing for Bridgend Town. So the lad who'd gone to Ryder with me from Merthyr, Neil, he'd gone down there. And I went down there. Had a good pre-season, was really enjoying it. But again, it was a disjointed club. There was things going on in the background that we were hearing. And we started the season, I think we won 2, drew 1, lost 1. And then we turned up to training on the Tuesday and they'd sacked the manager, who was one of the most popular managers I'd ever known, and probably I've ever known since, Francis Ford. They'd sacked him, and it was uproar in the changing rooms. People refused to actually go on a pitch to train. It was a bit odd to me because I'd only been there, let's say, 5 games or something. So a lot of boys left, didn't play that Saturday. But I just signed, I didn't know what to do. So I stayed for a couple of weeks, and it was never the same. The boys had all left. It was new players come in, and it was a feeling there that people were just coming for money at the time. Then they weren't there. People don't want to play for Bridgend, which was a big club with a lot of history. But they were just there for money. A lot of those boys, and it just didn't feel right. So the manager who got sacked had gone to Barry Town and was assistant manager of Barry, and a few of the players gone there. So I left and I ended up signing for him again at Barry. By that stage, we were probably 10, 11 games into the season. I think it was only a 30-game season in the Welsh League. So they were almost halfway through the season. So I signed there, and it was difficult getting in. They were struggling when we first went there, but he was still getting into the squad and what have you. And then I was patient. I got my turn in the team, scored from the bench, and then I started the next game, scored again. And then, as luck would have it, we played Bridgend away on a Friday night down in Bridgend, and there was a lot of bad feeling in the Barry change rooms. There was a lot of ex-Bridgend boys there who it ended very well with. And we went down there, and I think I scored the best goal I've ever scored down there that night, and we won 1-0. I remember running straight to the manager, or the assistant manager who was there, the ex-manager at the time, to celebrate with him. Good, he deserved that. And it was a big moment. We won 1-0, and then I think I stayed in the team then after that. At Barry, we finished mid-table. And then I think that was the year. So it was also I got involved and I was coaching Merthyr youth then around that time. And then we found out my wife was pregnant at the time, so I decided I wasn't going to play for Barry anymore because the hours out of the house. He was travelling on Tuesday or Thursday for training and playing on Saturday. So I decided to sign local, and I went back to Penarran Boys Club. I signed for their senior team. My dad had gone back there from Brecon. I was manager there. And they were starting to do something there. The ground was developing a lot more at that time. So I went back there. And then I think it was during that next season, we played Barry in a friendly again. And the manager is a different manager. He came on to my dad after the game and asked, could you approach me to sign me? Not knowing that it was my dad was actually my dad, and could he approach me? So Dad said, yeah, it's up to him. If he wants to go, he can go. You know, it's not a problem. He has to do what's right for him. I'm not going to make his decisions for him. That's his decision. So they came and asked me to sign, and said, everybody here is on 30 quid a game. And I said, look, it's just, I'm paying £2.50 subs a year, but it's local. My wife's pregnant. It's a bit difficult for me to be able to do that. So I turned it down and stayed with Penarran, and then I think Barry were really, really struggling at the time. So he rang me back a couple of weeks later and said, but listen, I'll give you 50 quid to come and sign. And I said, well, still, you're training. They were training in Cardiff, not in Barry, which wasn't as far, but still training at, fair distance away. And he said, well, I'll give you 60 quid a week, and you train whenever you want to train. You don't have to come and train all the time. You can train with Penarran here, so you're not travelling down. And as it was, we were like, we could do that extra money actually. My wife being pregnant and due to have our first child, so it was a much better standard than I was playing at. So I had to think about it, and I ended up signing back for Barry. We had a really tough year there. We were in Division 1 of the Welsh League then, just below the Welsh Prem. And I loved it down there. We were back at Jenner Park, and there was a lot going on between the chairman and the council at the time, because it was something like the council owned the ground, but the club is on the ground, and the chairman owned the ground. Owned the club. So it was a lot of things going on there. There was a lot of arguments and things going on there. But it was a bit of a struggle. Towards the end of that season, I got made club captain or team captain down there, and then I scored to put us 1-0 up. I scored a penalty to put us 1-0 up, and then just after the kick off from that, I jumped for a header, landed awkwardly, hurt my back, couldn't move, so I've come off with a bad back, gone into the shower, and as I come out of the shower, I was trying to put my tracksuit back on. I couldn't do the zip up. My hand was really hurting. I had it strapped up. And then probably adrenaline still going. Later that night, I remember a friend of mine came into the house. We were watching a Joe Calzaghe fight. He was fighting that night. By the end of the fight, I couldn't hold my drink. I had to go to the hospital. And I broke my wrist that game. So I ended up in plaster, and I never played for Barry again. They ended up, I don't know if they won a game after that. I think they'd drawn that game 1-1. They got relegated. The manager got sacked, and I never played for Barry again after that. That was my last appearance for Barry at the time. and yeah, I was a bit lost then after that. So yeah, I broke my wrist on Saturday, and my daughter had been born by that stage. And then on a Sunday we had a Merthyr Youth had a semi-final of the Welsh Youth Cup, which was a nightmare because I was in plaster. For that, I didn't get home till like 6 in the morning from the hospital and what have you. And yeah, I never returned to Barry. We had a very good end of that season with Merthyr. We won the Welsh Youth Cup. I'd say myself and Les, who's chairman of the club now, we were managing the youth team at the time. We beat Cardiff City in the quarter final of that. We beat TNS in the semi-final, and then we won the final, which was huge, absolutely massive for the club. I don't think they've done it before, and I don't think they've done it since. We won the league and the youth cup. We progressed a lot of players into Merthyr's first team at the time, which was brilliant because it was more about that than winning anything. But yeah, it was a very interesting season, that one.
So when did you get to the situation then, Craig, where you moved from football into coaching as such? Like with Merthyr and others.
So it's on and off. I've been coaching since I was probably 20, helping out with different youth teams and that kind of thing. And then, yeah, like I said, when I was at Barry, so I would have been about 26 maybe, I was helping coach Merthyr's youth team. So I'd done that for a period of time, done that for a few years after. And then I think, I forget which year it was, but we left Pendarren and I ended up taking a job with Treharris in the Welsh leagues. They were in third tier of the Welsh league system at the time. And I took the job there as player manager. I think I was around 29, 30 at the time. And I took the job as player manager there. And they were at that time bottom of that league with 1 point from 11 games, I believe. And I got told when I took that job, listen, we're not expecting to stay up this season, so there's no pressure on you this season whatsoever. We fully expect to go down, and then we'll rebuild next year. And I was a bit like, that doesn't sit right with me, to be honest. There's still over half a season to go, just over half a season to go. I'm not coming in yet to get relegated. That's not going to be my aim. That's great. That takes the pressure off, but I wouldn't come here if I thought that was the case. And at that time, again, it was transfer window in Wales, even in the third tier, which was just madness at the time. So we couldn't sign anyone until January. So I had the group of players that were there, and that was all we could do. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. These were boys who'd been playing local football, good young local boys who were going to develop and become good players, but weren't ready for this level of football just yet. And we managed to get one win before Christmas, which was absolutely huge. We had a good night that night, I can tell you that. Because it was a massive celebration. It was the first win of the season after like 16 games or something. And then we got to January and I was able to sign players. So I signed a lot of real good young players who had previously coached at Merthyr Youth. They came in and we had a brilliant second half of the season where we finished comfortably mid-table. We picked up a lot of points. We upset a lot of teams, and it was really good. And then I think at the end of last season we upset a few teams who were going for the league as well, I believe. But we stayed up comfortably. Then the following season, I wanted to develop that club a bit. So the following season we ended up with 3 senior teams. And this was a club that was on the brink of actually going just before I took over. There was talk of them going. They'd been around a long, long time. They're one of the oldest clubs in Wales. They were on the brink. We ended up with 3 senior teams and a youth team as well. And we had a really good season. I think we finished 3rd or 4th in that league that season. And that was when, there's a lot of teams paying money in that league. And again, we were actually charging players £5 a game at that point. They had to sell 5 lucky 4 tickets each week, or they paid the £5 themselves. So we weren't paying any money. And we had a really good season. We finished 4th, I believe, that season. But it became too much. If I'm doing it, I'm all in, and I was all in, and I was going down there to wash the kit Then I'd pop back home for a bite to eat and do a few things. Then I'd go back down to take that kit out to dry that kit, and then go back down and put the next kit into wash. And it became where I was doing everything. And that's not because there wasn't helpers there. It's just because I just took control of everything. And it became too much. And the following season became tough. Became real tough that season. And we were in a bit of a relegation fight for a while. We got out of that. But that was my time to leave then. I'd gone as far as I could with managing them. I was still young enough to play and go and play. So I did. I went back and I signed for the guy who was manager down in Bridgend when I first got there, who'd take me to Barry. He was at Penabont, who were now in the Welsh Prem and are doing really well as a club at the moment. But I went and signed for him and had a really good time playing with him for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, maybe down at Penabont. Just had a new 3G pitch laid when they went first out. And we had really good, successful seasons there where we had good runs in the Welsh Cup and the Welsh League Cup, upsetting some of the Welsh Prem teams, and we came really close to getting promoted into the Welsh Prem with that team. And I ended up being dragged in to coach and manage their youth team then down there because they'd been struggling, and we had a very successful time there with their youth team. So I managed them, and we ended up going from a struggling team to a team that made the League Cup final. Finished runners-up, I believe, in the league, and we made it to a Welsh Cup semi-final where we played Connors Key, who were far too strong for us at the time. They had a lot of boys who were in college academy together, and we had a really successful time there, and stayed there for 3 or 4 years until the manager chose to step down. He left. He walked away from football at that point, and I was kind of in limbo a bit then. So I left Penabont and went to Llanrwyd Major, I believe. I had kind of half a season there, and then there was problems with Merthyr then, and the money problems hit, and it was that famous game where they went to Chesham, and that made the headlines because the 13-1 result there, where Gavin was manager to take all the kids to play, and members of the office staff went and played and that. And I was at Llanrwyd Major, which was about an hour away, and they were paying me. I was the only player at the time getting paid there, and they were great to me, but just I'm not going to help out Merthyr here. I contacted Gavin and said, listen, I'm working in a school. I finish work at 3 o'clock, so like a Tuesday night game, I can come up. I can be on the bus for you to come and play on a Tuesday night. I was 36 at this stage. I was really fit. That was the one thing for me. I was always really fit. So I said, look, if you need me, I'll come and sign for you. So we went up and had a chat, and he still had a good core of players there, but didn't have much of a squad. She said, look, what I don't need to do is come and sign, and then you don't play regular football. And I was like, well, I'm not that bothered. I'm 36 now. I'm not needed that much. So I'm happy to just come and help. And you know what? I'm not going to come and knock on your door because I'm not playing, or it's just make sure Merthyr see the season out. So I did. So I signed. Didn't expect to play very much, and then trained a couple of times. And the time when you signed in, I signed on a Thursday, turned up, and there was TV cameras everywhere. And I remember thinking, God, this is a good time up here. I haven't been up here for a bit. But it was because they taught the club going bust. There was no money there. The players weren't getting paid. Lots of them had left and signed for Hereford at the time. It was the year that Hereford won the league. And so I ended up playing a lot more games than I'd expected. I think I played at home, come on a sub against maybe Basingstoke. And then we went away to St. Neots at Christmas time. And I started that game. And then I just had a run of games to stay in the team because, I signed for Merthyr, not because Merthyr wanted me to sign, but because Merthyr needed me to sign. It wasn't a case of, them asking me. I just said, look, I'm happy to do it. I played a good level. I still think I can do okay at this level for you. And I played a lot of games, and yeah, that was the start of it then again. Merthyr. So some great moments there. I remember going to the Kings Lynn, who were competing with Hereford at the time for the league, and we had 11 going away then, and a couple of youth boys. A couple of youth boys might have actually started that game. We had the youth keeper in goals, who was tiny, Ed Hudson, and we managed to get a 0-0 draw away at Kings Lynn and upset the locals in Kings Lynn big time. I remember getting a lot of abuse from them because we were expected to get absolutely battered. And then the other big one then stand-up moment was Hereford at home on the Boxing Day when we were expected to get thumped by, I think there's a vlog out there somewhere where everybody's saying they beat us by 5, they beat us by 6. There was a lot of the boys that left Merthyr that year when the money probably hit and signed for Hereford. And we played Hereford that day. There was, I think officially the crowd was announced as 2,500. I think it was more like 3,500 there. That day it was just absolutely packed. It was a midday kick-off. It was absolutely rammed in that ground. I remember going up to warm up, and it was like it was a bigger crowd for warm up than it's been in years and years up there for the games. And by the time kick-off arrived, you just couldn't see any spare parts of that ground. There's all you could see was people there. And we managed to get a 0-0 draw with Hereford as well, and could have nicked it. As the youngster come on in the last dying minutes and had a great chance to win it. And I think a bit like my moment against Neville Southall, I think he had the same moment there and bottled that and missed that. And but we managed to get another draw there, which felt like a 6-0 win. I don't think I paid for a drink all that night then because everybody was amazed that we got that. I was so pleased. And it was brilliant, and it really brought everybody together. That, to be honest, the supporters, players. I mean, we had players who were going to be leaving. The January transfer window was coming up in Wales, and a lot of Welsh Prem clubs were sniffing around those players because there were some very good players there, and they were offering them a lot of money, and we weren't getting paid very much money at all at that point when we were there. It was tough, but because we had such a good change room at the time, such a good group, close group of boys. They all stuck together. So, we saw the season out. And I had another season up where I didn't play very much. I was 37 by that time and come to the end. So I didn't play much there. But I wanted to carry on playing. So I went out and played for a couple of clubs, played for Treharris again, played for a couple of clubs, and then decided to call it a day. And I was going to just give it a bit of coaching. And that's what I was doing. I was doing a little bit of coaching. I'd set up some one-to-one coaching I was doing and some small group sessions I was taking. And then I had a phone call off Matthew Harris to say that Merthyr asked him to step in as temporary manager. Well, I looked to appoint someone and asked me to go in alongside him to help him out. Matthew was a player at Merthyr, had been a years, and I'd coached. He was a youth player and I was coaching there. And I played alongside him. So he asked me to step in, so I went in with Matthew then, and we were under the impression it was for 4 games originally. Then it was only 6 games, and then we ended up staying to the end of that season. And I mean, that call came in, and I was like a little kid again, so excited to go up and be a part of the club again, and absolutely loved it. We should have been relegated. We'd given it our all. We picked up 13 points in the last 12 games that we had there. And then at the end of the season, Walton Caswell's dropped out. And so we had a reprieve, and that was the year we stayed in. And then they appointed Paul Michael as manager. We finished on Saturday. Paul Michael was appointed on a Sunday, him and Smudge. And I thought that was my time up then. I thought I'd be leaving then because he'd been in new staff. But Paul rang me on a Sunday evening and asked me if I'd be interested in staying on as coach at the club, which I was delighted to accept. Yeah, but I think we hadn't even discussed money, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, that's great. And yeah, been there since. It's been 2 years since Paul has come in, and Smudge, and it's been a very enjoyable 2 years in that time. Lots of ups and downs, but yeah, it's been great since.
A lot more ups and downs, I would have thought. I mean, no disrespect. Yeah. I mean, sort of closing questions, really. I mean, he's done a great job, Paul, hasn't he? I mean, he's come in really and flirted with the playoffs this year and just unfortunate, the last couple of weeks. But I mean, it seems to be going in an upward trend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when he came in, there was a lot of excitement when he came in. He's got a good track record of clubs, of developing clubs and getting results. And with Yate Town, I mean, he did a fantastic job at Yate Town to get there and where they got them. And him and Smudge work really, really well together. So there's a lot of excitement when he came in. And that first year was brilliant. I mean, we've gone from a side who should have been in the league below, and in fairness, the preparations were for the league below, and then we had this late reprieve, and it was, it was exciting, but we didn't know what was going to happen that season then. And obviously we had that FA Cup run where we got to the first round of the FA Cup, and bit unfortunate, no disrespect, but we played Buxton away when we were hoping for a bigger tie than that. I remember being in the club and we wanted like a Sheffield Wednesday or Ipswich or Derby. It's one of those, and we ended up with Buxton away. So yeah, that was disappointing. But we had a great day in Buxton, and took lots of support. It was unbelievable how many buses came with us and supporters came. So that was a big positive that season. And yeah, we finished. We didn't finish that far away from the playoffs that first year, which is incredible when you think of where we've come from there. And then this season, yeah, it's been very up and down this season. But again, I think people have to put some perspective on it and realize how far we have actually come in those 2 years. So, the fact that there's so much disappointment, we've just missed out on the playoffs when 2 years ago we should have been in the league below. We went away to Taunton in the FA Cup and had a great result away to Taunton, who at the time were top of that league above. And it's been a very good season again. So we've got some very talented, good young players up there. So if we are able to hold them all there and keep them together, there's a very exciting future there at Merthyr. However, I know when you're doing well and these players are the right age, other clubs are going to come sniffing around ultimately. So we don't have the huge budgets that some of these other clubs have, and it is difficult. We can't sign players on dual registrations here in Wales. So that makes it difficult because it's hard to keep hold of a big squad of players when if you're not giving them game time, they're not going to stay. They're not going to stick around. They want to be playing football at the end of the day. And also, there's a lot of Welsh League clubs in this area paying big money, and a lot of them more money than we can actually pay. So that even though the level is better where we're playing, so yeah, it's tough but really enjoyable.
I guess it's going to be interesting to see with some of the big teams coming down as well from South as well, from the Vanarama South, and then of course that's a Wimborne possibly coming up as well. So it's going to be a really interesting season next year. It's going to be exciting as well, I'd have thought.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's almost like a new league when you're looking at the amount of teams coming into it next season and some of the big clubs coming up. I mean, good luck to anyone trying to predict who's going to finish where next season, because that's going to be very tough for anybody. But yeah, from our point of view, we just need to try and hold on to these players, and and we can have a real good go at it next season, and the supporters up there will get behind us no matter what. But yeah, it's going to be exciting because it's, like I say, it's going to be almost like a new league next season. Some real good opposition coming into it.
Well, Craig, it's been fantastic talking to you today. We really interesting story. Really enjoyed it, and of course also as well, all the very best for the new season for you, Paul, and all the team and everybody down at Merthyr. And don't forget the big man will be watching, and he'll be watching next year.
Now, so yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
So mate,
massive thank you, and we'll be back for another edition of My Life in Football next week. So make sure you join us then. But from me, from Craig, from this episode, good night.